All right, traders, Sam here, back with an update video here on the latest version of Algo Studio Pro. Now, this is a pretty substantial update. There's some important new features here, so let's just dive right in and go over them. Okay, so here, I should just show you here right off the bat here. I'm working with a 1 minute ES chart here. I've got 30 days of data. Right, nothing fancy. So I'm going to bring over ASP here, and I've already created a very simple algo here. And I'm very deliberately choosing to use two different EMAs. It's just a simple EMA cross, right? The idea is not so much about the underlying algo itself, but the features, right, what we want to focus on. So this is, again, very, very simple. All I'm doing is saying, okay, I want a 9-period EMA. And when that crosses over a 21-period SMA, right? So I can just show the differences here with two different indicators. Right now, in addition to that, this is a nice little feature here that I just want to highlight quickly here. As so many are trading this with prop accounts, and just so many trading prop accounts, period. Of course, drawdown, your daily drawdown is the key feature, right, we want to be aware of. So with this, this is just a nice feature. It's kind of a hidden feature, but you have to look for it. So if I go to trade, and then in my drop down here, I've got some choices here, and I'm going to use daily P&L. Well, I want, what I'm essentially telling ASP to do here is I want you to trade, continue to trade, as long as our drawdown stays above minus 500. Right, so and that it would be just replicated for long and short, right? The idea of just duplication here. But that being the point, so if it hits a drawdown of minus 500, it's just going to stop trading. That's the condition we're putting into it right now. Here I've got no exit template here. I'm just, again, the point is just to keep it very simple to demonstrate the new features, which are really very much in the optimization. Okay, so with that said, I've got my basic algo here. So let's go over now to the ATM. Now, one of the things you'll notice here with this particular algo here, I've created two positions because I want to highlight one of the new features. So let me bring this down here so we can see everything. All right, so I've got two positions. So now with that, I've got just a basic, I think this had run through an optimization here, but let's start with position one. We'll just think of this as a scalp and a runner. So for position one, I'm just going to use a 5-tick target, right? Let's clear 4 ticks, clear a full point, and then for a runner, I'm going to ask the ATM to do a little tweaking and optimization here. I personally like to start with RTH only, right? Because if I can get RTH to be profitable, then if I want to start adding in London or Asia, right, I can likely start tweaking very specifically there. But if I can't get something that's profitable in RTH, gives me pause as to whether or not I want to trade it or not. Now, that may or may not be your circumstance if you're not in the U.S. Perhaps you want to trade the London session here, but just for demonstration, then for that, you might just highlight the London hours and take out RTH. Again, this is very much just a personal decision based on where you want it to trade and when you want it to trade. Okay, but for this, because I want to focus on these features here, I'm going to keep a 2-lot position here. Now I'm going to go over to the optimizer. Now, one of the things you'll note here right off the bat here is that optimizer is now a tab, and then I have up here at the top here, I now have optimizer settings. You'll also notice here when we bring this up, it looks a little different now because of the optimizer tab. I've got the choice here between 1 and 2 positions, because we now have the capacity to optimize for position 1 or position 2 or both positions together. So if I now come over here before I start anything here, and this is just the default here, so I'm going to go to optimizer settings. Now right off the bat here on the left hand side, we see all the ATM optimization options. That has not changed, right? It's the same as it was before. You can tweak, you can get very fine-tuned with this based on your preferences and what you want it to optimize for. These are pretty wide ranges, so I encourage you to do some trial and error with this and see if you can narrow it down, to what your objectives are with regards to P&L and drawdown, right, being the key feature. But then you'll note also over here on this side here, now I can optimize the indicators as well. Now that's a major new addition. So previously, right, we could always optimize the ATM, but now we can go into the indicators and their parameters as well. Now this is going to look very simple because this is just a very drop-dead simple algo. So the only thing we're optimizing is the EMA and the SMA lengths. So you'll note here, by default, it's going to give me a range here. and it's going to I've got a 9 period by default here, so I'm going to say between 4 and 18, and the steps will influence the speed at which you're going to experience that optimization. Now, for something simple like this, you're probably fine, keeping the steps at 1. But if you had a very complex algo, which many are prone to doing, you may want to reduce some of that optimization time by increasing the number of steps. So as it is right now, with a step of 1, it'll look at 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then right, all the way up to 18. If I have steps of 3 for the 21 period, it'll go 10, 13, 16, right, in steps of 3, right? Just to be clear about what that's doing, it should be relatively straightforward here, but just to be sure that everybody understands what we're doing there. Okay, right, so you have the ATM, right, as we had before, and now this option over here. Now, one thing you might consider, if you're doing 4 to 18 and 10 to 42, you might want to say this, okay, I'm going to take this one up to 18. I don't want this, I don't want there to be any, non-logical crossover here, right? So where I get an 18 here and a 10 here, right? It's just a suggestion as you're tweaking with it. So something like this, I know I'm going to stay in that range. I might even go to 19. And if it's me, this is just default. I would take this to 55 myself, right? Because that's a something in that range, and something in this range is something that I would be just by default, right? Of just 20 plus years of trading, that might be where I would start. So okay, I've got those set. I'm going to leave this by default here, and I'm going to close that. Now, if I go here and I start to optimize, I have the choice. Do I want to optimize 1 or 2, or just 2? Now, an important point here that I should just highlight here: if you're only clicking in the optimizer for position number 2, for the stop loss is always going to be tied to position number 1, because the assumption is you're going into the market with a 2 lot and you're going to have an initial stop defined. So what I mean by that is if I just leave number 2 here, it's going to maintain whatever you have for the stop loss here, because that's tied to number 1. It's going to tie it to number 2. Perhaps something we'll add in the future, right? That's likely to be a request. But for as it is right now, I'm going to stay with number 2 here, and I'm going to leave the ATM as it is here. We'll just do previous bar high, low, +1, right? And I'm going to use just RTH hours. Right, I'm going to leave this as just a scalp target here, and we'll see what we can come up with here in the optimizer for number 2. So for position number 2. So this, again, these are defaults. So do I want to use a stop loss? Yes. Do I want to optimize the ATM? Okay. Do I want to optimize the indicators? Yes. Do I want to optimize trading hours? No. And I want it to close at the end of the day. Right? Nothing overnight. So let's go ahead and start that. Now, one of the things you'll notice here is that previously we had if I had it up here, we would have the equity curve updating in real time. Now, because there's so much complexity here, we've moved it all here, so you're going to see the optimization progress here. Also, the progress bar has been moved and is much bigger. It was over here. Now you can see how quickly this is moving. Now this is, again, not a terribly complex algo, right? It's pretty simple. But it's still, right, you're going to have, it might take a few minutes to get through all of those different optimization parameters. So, here, I won't make you sit through this, so I'll pause it here and we'll come back when that's done. Okay, well, that's finished the optimization process here, and you'll see here my results are down here, and I can kind of look at them individually. You'll note over here I'm also going to see the EMA settings, right, as we went through that optimization. So you'll note here's the first one being the shorter being 4, 18, 17, 15, 11, 11, 4. So we've got a pretty wide range there. Now, this is not a particularly good-looking algo, right? I mean, it might be a place to start, but it's going to need a little tweaking. So you'll note here a few other things that are just new. By default now, the sample data is defaulting to 60%, which we think is a good change. Now, of course, you can change it to whatever you like, but we're trying to reduce the over optimization of the entire equity curve. So by cutting it at 60% and then doing a 40% walkthrough, you get a better idea of how this algo is going to do in more current price action. So again, that's optional. But we would encourage you to maybe do your initial testing there. Now, if I come down here and I change any of these, right, it's going to change, and I can go here. If I were to go over to the logic and I click this, you're going to see it's going to change here to what I had, right? Remember, previously I had this as a 9. Now it's a 4. Cancel, right? Over here, what have I got? Now I've got a 31, right, which is back to my optimizer. Oh, here. You won't, I guess since I closed it here, but I could run it again, and I think we will, because that was not the optimizer result that would be encouraging. So what we could do now, just for the demonstration here, let's add the position 1 in. Let's go back to our ATM. We're gonna keep all of this the same here, but now it's going to optimize for both positions. So let's go back to optimize here. Oh, again, let's see if there's anything we want to tweak here. Yes, use a stop loss. Optimize the ATM. Let's stay with the indicators. Let's go back over to let's go to our optimizer settings here, and let's just reset this, just out of curiosity. Let's see if I go the full throttle here. If I get this range here, let's see what I get. Right. So I've just reset here. Now I'm going 2 to 8. Let's go ahead and close that, and let's see what I get with this. Everything I want here. Don't optimize hours. Indicators, yes. End of the day, yes, yes. Right. So let's go ahead and start that and see how we look. And again, you can expect some pretty dramatically different results here. So again, I won't make you sit through this, but already we're off to a pretty good start. So let me just pause that here. We'll come back when that optimization has been completed. Okay, now that's completed, and you can see my results are now displayed below, so I can click on each one of these, and if I want to see what that curve is going to look like. Now, if I go to net profit here, of course, now that's careful here. Now, so you look at this and you go, oh, a $26,000 return in 30 days. That's fantastic. Win rate 55%, profit factor 3.0. I mean, it's all terrific until we get to drawdown, right? And that's what, of course, anyone trading a prop account, that's what you're concerned with. So while this is a beautiful looking equity curve over time, that drawdown's a bit of an issue. So that might mean, okay, this is an algo that I've got a good start on here, but I'm going to do some more work on this to filter out and try and reduce that drawdown. You'll also note here, it's a nice looking curve here on the way up, and then as we get into this last 40% here of the walk forward, okay, not as great, right? So you've essentially gone flat here over the last 40% of this time, right? So for the last, what would that be, roughly 10 days of the month, and that could be we've had a lot of volatility over the very recent term here with all of the data being released into the market. So certainly for the ES, that may be contributing to this. But again, the point is not the underlying algo. That's not what our objective with this video is. It's just to demonstrate these new features. Now, while I'm here, I should note also as well that one of the changes we've made is that now when you save, right, after running an optimization, when I save this, the optimization is saved along with the algo that you created. So there's no need to have a separate folder of optimization results. They all get saved together. So if I just save this here, right, now that's going to go away. But if I were to close it and then bring it back, then I would have that result here. So what I might also do here is now go to my reports and then look at the numbers here and say, okay, well, it's awfully good in the first part of the day, not so good in the second part of the day. And that might be, okay, well, the 11:30, that's kind of surprising, right? We did 12 is not surprising. So you might, again, this is a good starting point. This is an awfully simple algo, right? But that's not necessarily a negative. As you'll hear me say often, there's a misperception that with complexity becomes increased profitability. I think you'll find the more you work with algos that it's quite the contrary, right? The simpler, the better. So this is a decent starting point. You'll also notice that in my optimization, if I go here to the logic, you see these have changed relative to those. Now I've got a 15 here, and on the SMA, what have I got here? I got a 46, right? So once you've gone through that optimization and you're optimizing the indicator parameters, once you choose one, well, of course they're going to change here, and that's going to be reflected in this equity curve. And then additionally, if I were to go to reports and then look at this and say, okay, well let's just turn it off after 1 o'clock and go to the ATM and then just go, okay, none of this. Let's not have any of this trading. And now I'm going to go to, let's look at my results here. Okay, if I'm push this off for a second. So now I'm at 27, right? So still, pretty good looking curve. But still, the drawdown has been the most recent price action here. Now you'll note once I tweak the ATM, I take out those hours, I lose that walk forward, right, with that separation and the walk forward, because now you're tweaking it yourself, right? So you don't have that optimization period walking forward because you've changed the hours. So I think that covers all of the new features that we have. A pretty substantial update here. So of course, as is always the case, right, you want to play with it, tweak it. a few things to remember here when you're doing any sort of optimization here. Don't forget to enable, right? I made that mistake a few times when I was first working with this. Choose that range that you're interested in. You can just go with the default, right? It's going to give you a nice range. And depending on the time that you have to work with it, you might want to change some of these steps. So do you want 1 there? Well, it's going to optimize faster if you change that to 2 or 3. Same thing here. Also, right, I think it's don't be lazy and just default. Right? Tweak these a little bit, right? So when I say, okay, I've got a good starting point on an algo here, well, this is where you start fine-tuning it and tweaking, right? So our problem with this algo is the drawdown's too high, right? The net result is fantastic, right? All of these numbers are great except for the drawdown. Look at my biggest loser is 1932, right? That's, if you're trading a prop account, can't have that. So again, the point is not the underlying algo, it's the process of designing an algo that fits your requirements as a trader, right? So if I take that off and then come back here and we look at this, okay, right? Now maybe that's fine if you're not trading a prop account. Right? Can you sustain and stay with an algo that's got a max losing streak of almost $5,000? Perhaps not, right? Just some things to think about as you're designing an algo. Now, maybe you start tweaking on times that it's trading. Maybe you're tweaking, 1s and 2s. There's so much potential here in terms of tweaking and refining, right? No two people are likely to end up with the same result. And of course, unless you're sharing algos, right? So, lots of flexibility here. We're very excited about this new version here. As I think we've demonstrated, likely there'll be more updates coming as we get feedback from our customers and members. Of course, you can always trial this. You get 7 days to work with it, and you'll find lots of content within our Discord. We've got a good number of algos that are in there being shared by users, customers, some of our team here. So you'll find some good starting points. But these are all new features, brand new, just released. I think the beta version came out on Friday. So this is still a beta version, right? So you can anticipate there might be a few bugs or tweaks or things that we will work on before we get the final version. But these are pretty quantum leaps forward with regards to what we're doing with the optimization. So I hope you'll appreciate those and start getting to work on creating some good algos for yourself. Okay, with that, I'll sign off and wish you guys a good weekend.